Dr. Sonal Jain from Department of Anthropology, University of Delhi. In this series of forensic science lecture, today we are going to discuss forensic odontology and bite marks. Whenever we are discussing about any forensic odontology, it relates to the dental sciences. If we go by the definition, it is the application of dental science to the administration of the law and the furtherance of justice. Forensic odontology plays an important role when we have to investigate any crime scene. There are many things which can be done from forensic odontology. For example, we can identify a person based on his dental structure. We can estimate the age of the person. We can estimate the sex of the person depending upon the remains which we have found in the any investigative any crime scene. If we go with the history, the earliest known identification from teeth is in 1775 by Paul Revere. He was the one who made a silver bridge for one man. The man was killed in the Revolutionary War and the body was in the mass grave, and he was identified by his silver dental work. So when we say, if in fact there is a person, he has specific dental work in his teeth or in his tooth set, or if he has something which is different from other individual, any capping which is there, that makes him individual from different persons. So this could be make to identify different dead bodies in the cases of mass disasters. So going back to the 1775, when we say the forensic application of the odontology, they come for the identification of the dead bodies or of the individuals in a mass disaster case, or sometimes when we say these persons can also be identified on the basis of any specific they are using any tooth anomalies. So this field, when we say, it is very important in identifying human remains that are decomposed, mutilated or visually unrecognizable. So there is a case, for example, if there is any mass explosion, then what happens to the person's dead bodies? The various part, they go into different direction and there is no single body we can find. In such cases, when we have to identify a certain person, then we can go with the dental structure of that person. A person during his lifetime may have undergone various dental treatments. Based on that, we can say or we can identify a single or a particular person. So in such cases, we have to see the ante-mortem records, the records of the person when the person was alive, and the post-mortem records, the records of the person when the person is dead now. So this is the case where forensic odontology, or we can say forensic dentistry, plays an important role. So it is a specialty that relates dental evidence to the investigation. Whether it could be while we are identifying a person, any individual from the mass disaster cases, or if we are identifying any teeth or bite marks, in such cases we can even reach up to the criminal. This analysis of bite marks also come into forensic dentistry or forensic odontology, which has played a major role in many cases. Teeth marks may be left in food, pencils or other items left at the crime scene. Those teeth marks or bite marks, we can say, they can be lifted by various forensic scientists from the crime scene and can be analyzed, which could be used to identify an individuals. In many cases, they can help us in eliminating or identifying the suspects. So the forensic dentists, they compare, as I said, the ante-mortem records which were present before death and the post-mortem records to determine if there is a positive match. For example, if in a mass disaster case we have found any mutilated body, that means it is not easy to identify the person through the face, through the height or through any other thing. Then we take the dental of that person, because the maxillary or mandible, they are most important, which are in any mass disaster case, they usually remains. Our soft tissues, they go easily bad in any such cases. So these, the set of tooth which we have identified from the crime scene, they can be known, they can be used to know the age of the person, the gender of the person, and if he has gone any specific treatment, then we can see that this person, this body belongs to that particular person. So the use of forensic odontology, or the scope we can say, is very wide. For example, we can identify the victim of accidents, gunshot, incineration in vehicles and house fires. Mostly why we are talking about the house fires or the explosion cases, because those are the cases where the body of the person will be mutilated to a very high extent. For example, with the 3rd degree or 4th degree burns, we cannot identify the people or the person from their face. In such cases, what we are left with? Either we are left with the bones which might be charged, or we can left with the dental structure of that person. So that's why their forensic odontology plays an important role. Secondly, going towards the DNA evidence, firstly we look at the dental structure of that person. We know that this person has undergone the treatments, and this person contains certain kind of caps or certain different teeth in his set of teeth. So we can identify the person through that. In such cases, we should have dental records which are useful in helping to identify unknown persons who have been simply reported missing. So what are these dental apparatus which we are looking for? This could be the teeth of the person, or this could be any prosthetic appliance, for example bridges, partials, crown, any false teeth which has been incorporated in the set of teeth of a certain person, any specific shape of someone's tooth, the form, the peculiarities, etc. So when we talk about this shapes or form, we know that different persons, they have almost different shapes and different type of teeth. Some might have a gap in between various tooth, some have less gap, some they have tooth which are towards inside or towards outside. So these specific structures, this morphology, these peculiarities make it an individual characteristic of that particular person, and we can identify on such basis. Now, when we talk about the odontology, the major area which has solved many cases, for example, the famous Ted Bundy who was found with the help of a bite mark, we come to the topic the bite marks. The human bite marks are one of the physical evidence or the biological evidence we can say which are found in most of the violent crime scenes. These bites, they have been found in various cases like homicides, attempted suicides, sexual assaults and child abuse. They can occur both on the victim or on the suspect, where teeth are used as weapon by the aggressor, also in self-defense by the victim. So we can say the bites can be found on the victims as well as on the person who is aggressor or the criminal. They are mostly found in the sexual assault or the rape cases where the criminal might bite the victim, or in defense, victim might bite the criminal. In both the cases, the bite marks are very important. The bite marks which are present on the victim's body, that can be easily lifted, but if the criminal has run away from the crime scene, then the victim know that he or she has bitten the criminal at a particular place, and that can be used as a corroboratory evidence, or that can be used when the victim is giving his side of story. So when we say the bite marks, it includes the examination inflicted by humans and animals in a variety of circumstances. So bite marks could be given by humans as well as animals. So such cases, the bite marks should be photographed first. Then we say, when we talk about the bite marks, we discuss about the teeth structure and function. So what is the importance, or what is the main thing, the role of teeth? It is in the food processing, that is the mechanical digestion. The first set of teeth are called deciduous teeth. They erupt around 6 months and a full set around 2 years. So when we say that the person, the first teeth, they first get their teeth at the age, their first tooth at the age of 6 months, and by the age of 2 years, they have a full set. The baby teeth, that is around 20, where we have central incisors, lateral incisors, canines, first molar and second molar. This is the set of teeth which the children having, and this erupt at different ages. After the eruption of these teeth, starting from the age of 7 to 8 years till the age of 17 years, various deciduous teeth start falling, and then the children which is going into an adulthood, they set to regain an extra set of permanent teeth. The second set we can call as permanent teeth, and they replace baby teeth between the 6 to 12 years of age. This wisdom teeth emerge around 17 to 25 years of age. So, depending upon looking at the structure of the teeth around the mouth of the victim or any tooth set which is found at the crime scene, we can also estimate the age of the person depending upon the eruption of the teeth which are there present or not. So, these teeth, they are classified according to the shape and function. The central one we are called as incisors. They are chisel shaped and they are mostly adapted for cutting. So, when we say the bite mark, the major impact comes through the central incisors and the lateral incisors. For example, if we have to bite a very hard object, a very hard fruit we say, let's say any apple we are biting, then we are biting using the help of our canines and the incisors because they are mostly adapted for cutting. Canines, the next teeth, set of tooth after the incisors, they are fang-like and used for tearing or piercing. Then we have premolars, which are the interior ones. They are also called bicuspids, and the molars, they are known as the cuspids. They are broad and crown-like and they are used for grinding. So, these set of teeth, whenever a person or a victim or a criminal has inflicted a bite mark on another person, the set of tooth, depending upon which comes into the bite, they leave a different type of impression on the skin or the surface where the bite mark is being inflicted. So, to go for that, we also need to see the teeth structure and the function. A tooth has two regions, the crown and the root. The crown is covered with enamel, forming the hardest part, and the root is below the gum. This tooth structure analyzing, we get to know that how they are being inflicted on any surface. So, whenever we receive any evidence at the crime scene, any bite mark evidence on the crime scene, the investigators, they analyze bite marks for characteristics to help them identify victims or suspects as well as to exclude others. So, it is like if the bite mark is present, depending upon the arch, the diameter of arch, we can easily identify or we can easily exclude or include any suspect through that. These bite marks can be left on a victim's skin or other objects such as styrofoam cups, gums or foods. In many cases, we have seen that in the homicide cases, as we take criminals, they might behave as psychopaths. So, depending upon the bite mark which is being inflicted on the victim's body, we can also talk about the psychological behavior of that particular criminal. Because if a person has killed any other person using some knife or some other gunshot, etc., but including that, the criminal is also leaving a bite mark on the victim's body, it's talk about the psychology of the criminal, that it is his modus operandi. He wants to leave his impression on the crime scene, and this bite marks can be used to identify the criminal through that. So, in the bite mark, apart from the various dimensions we are using, we can get to have sometimes the saliva or the blood which is left behind, and that can be tested for DNA. So, depending upon if the wetness is present near the bite mark, the forensic scientists firstly swab that area, because if saliva is there, we can easily get to know about the DNA and which can help us in individualizing the person. These bite marks can be also identified using the dental records, which includes X-rays, and can also provide useful information, especially when attempting to identify a victim. There are many features which we have to analyze when we are analyzing a bite mark. The type of the bite mark, whether it is inflicted by a human or an animal, the characteristic of the teeth, position, evidence of dental work, wear patterns, etc. So, when we say about the class characteristics and the individual characteristics, the class characteristics come into that we have the central incisors, we have the lateral incisors, and then we have certain kind of canines, and we have first premolar usually in a bite mark. As you can say, this is an arc-like shape. So, this arc-like shape is showing that such kind of mark will come if a person is inflicting total pressure upon the skin. Also, the bite mark depends upon what kind of object is there. There could be certain hard objects, there could be certain soft objects. So, depending upon that, the bite marks may differ. So, as a good forensic scientist, what you should do? You should take the bite marks on the similar surface where the bite mark is found as on the crime scene. Also, the color of area will let us know how to estimate how long ago the bite occurred. It is a very old bite mark or a recent bite, and we can check for the body fluids for DNA test. Most importantly, we know that the most famous incident where bite mark evidence led to a conviction was the case of the notorious serial killer Ted Bundy. So, he killed many people within an era of like around 1973 to 78, and he was finally tied to the murder of Lisa Levy through the bites he had inflicted on her body. So, Ted Bundy has committed many crimes during this 5-year period, but he was not able to catch hold from the FBI. But he has left a bite mark on his last victim. She was Lisa Levy, and through the bite marks analysis, he was identified and convicted. When we say the class characteristics and the individual characteristics, the class characteristic is like everyone will have the central incisors, they have the lateral incisors, they have the canines. But what are the individual factors? They are cavities, tooth pattern and general dental health neglect. That can be used in the cases where the cases of the mass disaster, where the whole mandible or maxilla is being found, and we can say or we can identify a person from the set of the tooth. So, the bite marks we have when we say, usually they are being surrounded by the bruising, and they are mostly common in various violent crimes and the child abuse. When we talk about the violent crime, we are saying the cases like sexual assault cases, rape cases, homicidal cases, and when we say the child abuse, where a person who is below the age of 18 has been used for various activities which are illegal in nature, in certain cases the bite marks are most common. So, depending upon, as we say, the surface on which the bite mark is being inflicted, if the criminal has given a bite mark on the skin of the victim, then it must be surrounded with certain bruises, depending upon with how much pressure the criminal has inflicted the bite mark on the skin of the victim. Also, conversely, these bite marks are also present, might be present on the hands or the legs of the criminal in cases where the victim has given a bite mark in self-defense. So, supposedly if after the act of any crime and the victim is alive and the victim tells to the investigator that in self-defense a bite mark is being inflicted upon the criminal, it becomes a corroborative evidence, and from the list of suspects, if the victim says that the bite mark has been inflicted on the left hand or the right hand or the leg, then that can be examined and can also be used to catch the suspect. So, what are the different objectives which can be fulfilled by the examination of the bite marks? The first one is the individualization. The ultimate, though now highly contested goal has been to identify a specific individual. So, can we individualize a person through the bite marks? Yes. The source of the bite marks to the exclusion of the others, we can say depending upon the arch which is being inflicted, the type of the arch which is there, the diameter which is there, and this is based on the principle of dental uniqueness, that every person which is present there, their tooth, they have different shape and they have different individualistic features. So, with the intent of saying the individualization, we can also say the exclusion. This is a more reliable and scientifically robust approach, that is to exclude a suspect definitively. When we say the bite marks, if we have taken the bite marks from the suspects, different suspects, the different samples for comparison have been taken, and the sample of comparison is not matching with the sample which is found at the crime scene, then we can say that at the particular place, for example, there is a chipping in the canine of a suspect, but the bite mark which we have found at the crime scene, it does not show any chipping at the canine. So, that means that person is not involved in that particular case. So, this if the clear discrepancy exists between the suspect's dentition and the bite mark pattern, then the suspect has a missing tooth where the mark shows a tooth impression. Exclusion is certain in such cases. Then we have the corroboration of testimony. Bite marks can provide physical evidence that supports a victim's or witness's account. For example, a bite mark on a suspect's arm consistent with the victim's definition or dentition can support a claim of self-defense, and in such cases we can say that this person was present at the crime scene and they have a contact, the criminal, that particular suspect, they have a contact with the victim which results in the self-defense. This bite mark has existed, so this person is involved in such crime. Along with that, we have the investigative linkage. The bite marks can be used to link multiple crimes. If similar bite marks are found on victims in separate assaults, it can indicate a single perpetrator, allowing law enforcement to consolidate various investigations. Finally, the major objective and one more thing which can shed light is the assessment of behavioral patterns. In serial crimes, for example, like child abuse, sexual assaults or rape cases, homicidal cases, the location, severity and the nature of the bite marks can provide insights into the perpetrator's behavior, intent and the level of violence. For example, when we say there is a homicidal case and the person is trying to kill the victim, in such cases, if a bite mark is found on the victim's body, where it is not necessary to inflict a bite mark, but it was because of the behavior of a psychopath criminal that it is his modus operandi, he wants to leave a bite mark there on the crime scene, or he is insisted from his behavior to make a contact with the victim. In such cases, we can say that the perpetrator has intentionally left a bite mark on the victim's body and can also tell about that he is violently involved in a specific or a particular crime. So, telling about when we are discussing whether we can use the individualization factor, the exclusion factor, whether we can say some comments about the psychological behavior of the person depending upon the bite marks. So, we have to look for the detailed morphology of these bite marks to analyze these bite marks when they are present in the crime scene, to study those and to get to know that what can we get to know from the various features present at the victim's hand or any other object which is left at the crime scene. We say this is a complex pattern representing the class 1 lever system of the mandible and maxilla. As we have seen in the previous photographs, the arch configuration, the pattern is an elliptical pattern, which is a typical, we can say, ovoid pattern, where the upper arch or the maxillary arch, the upper arch we can say about the upper jaw, that is generally wider and it creates a more pronounced bruise, while the lower jaw, which we call as the mandible or the mandibular, is narrower and show more defined indentations. So, looking at the bite mark, the upper arch we can say, which is more wider, we can identify the direction of the bite mark, whether it is inflicted from which direction. The direction which is more wider is from the upper set of tooth and which is less wider, it is from the lower set of tooth. So, depending upon the center of the bite mark, when we say because of the tongue, the sucking or the negative pressure bruise, the central area between the arches, they show a large bruise caused by the tongue pressing the tissue against the teeth or by the suction which ruptures superficial blood vessels. So, the area of the bite mark, when we say the maxillary arch is there, the mandibular arch is there, the between, due to the tongue pressure, we have the bluish bruise area. Depending upon the pressure which is being inflicted from the upper or from the lower mandible, we can identify the direction of the bite marks. So, to conclude, I will say the bite mark is a very important evidence which is found at the crime scene, and collecting, preserving and carefully analyzing Collecting the biological material from this, we can easily individualize a person and exclude the other various suspects. Thank you.